On June 5, 2006, Michael Balsamo, his wife Stephanie, and his mother-in-law, LaVonna, are arrested and charged with several counts of manufacturing and possessing a cheating device. In 2008, they all go to trial. Balsamo's mother-in-law is convicted but given probation. Balsamo's wife Stephanie is convicted and sentenced to between 16 and 32 years in prison. As for Michael Balsamo, he never made it to trial. While out on bail, he disappears.
Michael Balsamo fled to Argentina, and we received reports from his family members that he passed away. There is some doubt that he in fact has died because he is such a scam artist. And so to this day, he still is listed as being alive.
In Vegas, at least, Balsamo is out of the picture. And Carmichael is back in Oklahoma, banned from ever entering a casino in Nevada again. As for slots, they continue to evolve to become more secure.
The slot machines are computerized today. They're computers. And so to cheat a slot machine this day and age, you pretty much have to be a computer expert, a hacker.
And without question, there is someone like Tommy Carmichael trying to find a way to beat them. Tommy Carmichael and Michael Balsamo spent the better part of 2 decades cheating Vegas. There's no way to know for sure exactly how much they stole, but experts believe it was in the millions. And in an ironic twist of fate, Tommy Carmichael, the slot cheat mastermind who is now banished to Tulsa, still isn't done with Vegas. He has one more hit. Carmichael develops and patents an anti-cheating device, which he tries to market to the casinos.
It had been approved by gaming, and it had all the licensing and everything done to it. But as soon as they found out that I was the inventor of it, they said, nah.
The gaming industry, which had lost millions thanks to Carmichael and his inventions, wants nothing more to do with him. It is game over.
Tommy Carmichael is a very bright person who, had he used his intelligence for good, probably would have been a much richer man than he is today.
But it's not just cheaters with technical know-how that casinos have to look out for. Other criminals change the game by using sheer force. The heart of every casino is the cage, a highly secure area where money is counted and chips and tokens can be exchanged for cash.
The cage, this is run a lot like a bank, but honestly, this is more secure than any bank. This is where all the money is. So we take our security here more seriously than any other place.
For years, cages were considered rock-solid fortresses, even though a few unarmed casino guards, a couple of cameras, and a dark reputation were their only protection.
It was perceived that organized crime had a lot of influence in Las Vegas and that they were owners or part owners of all the casinos. Popular consensus was that anybody who robbed a casino would end up dead the next day, buried out in the desert someplace.
But in the 1990s, corporations started building and buying casinos. Cages still had millions on hand, but security hadn't changed. And without the mythic layer of mob protection, the once impenetrable fortress became vulnerable. No one knew it, but a violent outside force was about to change the game of cage security forever. The Aladdin Casino. Tourists work the slots. Players huddle around the gaming tables. At 9 p.m., black and white surveillance cameras capture a suspicious group entering the casino.
They've got masks on, they've got guns, they start yelling, hitting people, knocking people down.
They make their way to the cage. The bandits are small enough to dive under the 15-inch clearance below the cage bars.
They open up all the drawers, grab all the money they could, as quick as they could.
As they ransack the cage, casino staff offer no resistance.
They're not supposed to fight these guys. Just let them take it, back off. No amount of money is worth your life.
The thugs inside the cage leap out and race for the door. In less than 2 minutes, the robbers bag 47 grand in cash.
This was the first time anything like this had happened. A flat-out takeover of the casino cage area.
Casino cameras see it all, but after review of the grainy black and white footage, they still don't know the identities of the masked bandits.
They could see enough skin color under their masks to know they were black, but nobody was going to be able to identify them. We didn't have any real leads to go on. There's really no physical evidence that would lead us to anybody. 2 days later, LAPD was serving 28 search warrants related to a gang homicide. The police rolled up at one of these locations, and a bag comes flying out, lands practically at their feet. They look in the bag, and there's a bunch of Aladdin casino money wrappers in there. Of course, that's our first clue that the guys who robbed the casino had a connection to LA.
But no one is sure exactly what the connection is. The LAPD immediately calls Las Vegas police, and since the investigation has crossed state lines, the FBI gets involved. All three agencies focus attention on a potential LA gang connection, but nothing comes of it, and the investigation goes cold. 2 months later, the Flamingo, another casino with easy access to the cage, is hit.
4 guys come running in, guns out, all masked up, vault the counter, grab the money. They all leave, get in a stolen van, take off. Took less than 2 minutes, and they were out of there with $150,000.
Once again, the robbers leave behind no clues, little evidence, and no suspects. Desperate to avoid a mass exodus of customers, Vegas increases camera coverage and adds security on casino floors.
The reason that everybody was so concerned about this robbery series was that they didn't want it to affect tourism. They didn't want anybody not to feel safe in a hotel in Las Vegas. And that's what this gang was making people feel unsafe. They were unsafe. Nobody wants to go to a hotel that, looks like you're in Baghdad.
But there's no stopping the bandits. 2 days later, they hit Harrah's, only this time, they amp up the attack.
4 young men come running in, they pistol whip a lady, they hit another guy in the head. 2 of them vault the counter, they grab another guy by the hair, hold a gun to his head, while the 2 behind the counter rifle the drawers. Jump back over the counter, they all run outside with a little over $97,000. They crash through a gate and they go into the Harrah's parking garage where they switch to another vehicle. A police officer sees this van coming out with its lights off, 3 in the morning. He starts following it. The van takes off, the chase is on. They get the helicopter up, the squad cars converge, and there's a 20-minute high-speed chase through Vegas. The subjects ram a police car that's at a roadblock, lose control, hit a fire hydrant, crash into a telephone pole, and everybody scattered.
Police canine units pursue on foot. 30 harrowing minutes later, they bust all 4 thieves, plus the getaway driver. Unmasked, authorities discover that the terrifying casino cage attackers are just teenagers from Los Angeles gangs, hoping to build up their street credibility.
The gangs will use kids for a lot of stuff. They'll use them as lookouts, they'll use them as couriers, they'll use them to pass messages, sometimes make deliveries or carry money, because they know that even if they get caught, the kid will have no incentive to talk because he won't be looking at that much time. He's a juvenile. Plus, the younger they were, the dumber they were to put themselves at this kind of risk.
That means one thing to authorities.
We didn't have the guys who had been setting this up and was responsible for robbery after robbery. So that's what we were trying to uncover.
The cops put the squeeze on the attack crew, interrogating them for hours in search of the ringleaders. But whoever is running this dangerous scam has been careful. The teenagers don't even know the names of the guys they're working for. A year goes by.
And it took so long, the time kind of worked in our favor because these gang members They were continually getting in trouble with the law. And when they would get jammed up bad enough, they'd be looking for a way to get out. They'd be thinking, well, you know, I know a little bit about this casino robbery. So we got a lot of bits of information from a lot of people, and we put the whole thing together.
Authorities uncover not one, but two ringleaders behind the violent cage raids. Melvin Foster and Chet Govan are unlikely partners from rival Los Angeles gangs.
Loyalty to the gang really goes out the window when it comes to making money.
Melvin Foster was a member of the Los Angeles Bloods gang. He had gotten the idea for the robberies after he traveled to Vegas and recognized a serious flaw in casino cages.
Melvin Foster was well aware that most of the casinos didn't have bars and stuff. They looked more like a bank counter, but there was a lot more money behind the counter than you would find at the typical bank.
Foster had mapped out a plan. He started by choosing casinos with cages close to exits and with the fewest cameras and security guards. Foster was ready, but he wanted to increase his odds of success. For that, he needed a partner, someone street smart, someone like him. But who could he trust? Family. He turned to his cousin, Dion Chappelle. Chappelle suggested a partnership with her boyfriend from the rival Crips gang. His name was Chet Govan, who went by the street name Short Dog. In 1994 Los Angeles, on a normal day, these two gang members would kill each other before they would ever talk.
Guys are supposed to be rivals, supposed to be trying to tear each other's head off, but next thing you know, they involve that kind of activity together.
Foster had the mind, and Govan had the mettle. They needed each other, even if no one could understand the partnership on the street. Foster and Govan used young gang members from LA's toughest neighborhoods to storm the Vegas casino cages unchallenged.
Finding young men in the streets that were willing to get involved, especially if they thought they could make a quick buck, it was really easy because they know they're willing to go out and do something crazy.
After the heist, the gang used two escape cars. The first was for the getaway from the casino. The second car was waiting in a parking garage. Then, they switched into that car with the money and headed to Los Angeles. The masterminds waited nearby.
Chet Govan and Melvin Foster wouldn't be anywhere near the casino during the robbery.
When they got word the heist was pulled off, Govan and Foster made their way back to South Central Los Angeles in their own car.
This way they would never be connected with either the robbers, the physical evidence from the robbery, or even the money.
Incredibly, Foster and Govan didn't give a dime to the brazen young gang members who pulled off the heists.
The guys they're working for are not planning on sharing it with them. So they'll use them up until they can't use them anymore. You know, they move on to the next youngster that will do something stupid for them.
Once Foster and Govan are arrested, the two rivals quickly flip on each other. The authorities now have enough to put them away. Foster gets 18.5 years in prison. Govan is sentenced to 22.
The 5 men who we had caught after Harrah's robbery, they all pled, and they got between 10 and 18 years apiece.
For Las Vegas, the robberies were game changers when it comes to cages. In today's modern casino, the cages are deliberately set in the back, far from exits, making a fast getaway virtually impossible. They are also being watched from every angle.
I have more cameras per square foot in this area than anywhere in the casino. I've got 60 cameras in this small area. I have cameras embedded in the bars. But in addition to that, we're more vigilant in front of this cage than we ever were before. We have security that is staged here 24/7, and not just one officer, several.
The cage interior has also been revamped, making the money less accessible.
Because those individuals were able to slide right into the cage, we had to look at that and say, that really didn't work, did it? It was a very glaring weakness that nobody had really thought of. But when it was demonstrated to us, at that point, all the bars came down lower so that somebody cannot do that anymore.
The lowered bars are only the first new layer of protection.
The initial door you walk in to get into the cage leads you into the chip bank area, where they're going to be conducting transactions, taking chips to the table, bringing chips back that have been redeemed from a game.
Today, the cage is no longer an open area. It's a labyrinth of multiple rooms.
beyond that door, that's going to have a cage going into the main cage. But then next to that is going to be another door. So you go in one door, that door is going to close and lock behind you. Both doors can't be open at the same time. And then to get actual entry to the cage, you have to go through another door. And then usually behind that, we're going to have our count areas. So you're going to be going through 3 to 4 doors to get to the count area where we're actually counting the money.